we want to do a gig in Venice. Where do we do this gig in Venice? Well, out on the water, of course, facing St. Mark's Square.
After Roger Waters left the band in 1985, a few years after the release of the final cut, it was uncertainty concerning the future success of Pink Floyd. With the remaining band members working on a few solo projects in the wake of Waters' departure, the band was eager to release their first album without Roger Waters. In 1986, David Gilmour managed to readmit Richard Wright, and although he didn't directly contribute due to legal reasons, they released the next Pink Floyd album in 1987, A Momentary Lapse of Reason.
Maybe it could be made a little bit more timeless, with more of the traditional instruments that we were more used to playing with.
The quality of the album is up for fans and critics to hash about, but laying out the hard facts, it surpassed quadruple platinum status in the US. It even exceeded all expectations of their upcoming tour, which they kept on expanding. And what better place to add to the tour list than an old European city with historical and potentially fragile architecture? Welcome back to Behind the Music. In this video, we revisit the iconic Pink Floyd concert in Venice and all the chaos around it. Stay tuned until the end so you get the full story of this controversial concert. Their performance in Venice, Italy on July 15th in 1989 was one of the most memorable and controversial shows of their career. When the band arrived in the city, they were met by over 200,000 Italian fans who flocked to St. Mark's Square to see the legendary band perform. For some reason, the concert was free of charge, with the satellite company broadcasting the show taking on most of the costs. Not only did 200,000 Italians watch the show, over 100 million people were watching it from their homes worldwide. Before the concert, there had already been controversy around the possibility of performing in Venice. Although Venice is a beautiful city, it might not be the best place for a concert of this size. In fact, they didn't even find a specific place in the city to put the stage. Stephen O'Rourke, Pink Floyd's manager, was against the idea and said it would be too difficult. When he said, "It's never going to happen," Gilmour simply replied, "Steve, if Venice doesn't happen, you're fired." The solution? Well, Steve didn't want to be fired, so how does a North Sea oil rig sound? In reality, the solution was actually a large barge used to service and transport oil rigs, but an amazing solution nonetheless. However, it wasn't only the technicalities of the stage that was a problem. The band needed confirmation from the city council. And as with most councils, there was already a big row in the Venice council, and the concert ended up being a political matter as most things do. As Gilmour put it, "We were political pawns. They used this concert to discredit each other." Anyways, what it came to was the non-elected city council agreed with the organizers to let the concert happen. Although Mayor Antonio Casalati was against it, he was absent at the meeting and didn't have any say on the outcome of the decision. I must admit that this is quite surprising given the consequences for him after the concert. Now, as the concert was going to happen, there were several concerns about the issue of sound levels. People were wondering if the high sound volumes could cause damage to the historical architectures. That is, people, not David Gilmour. A PA sitting a quarter of a mile out in the lake is going to damage buildings that have been there for 700 years? Give me a break. However, the superintendent for cultural heritage didn't agree with Gilmour. He vetoed the concert on the grounds that the amplified sound would damage the mosaics of St. Mark's Basilica, while the whole piazza could very well sink under the weight of so many people. The band then agreed on lowering the decibel levels from 100 to 60. As for the weight on the piazza, it is true that the city is used to such masses of people during the Venice Carnival. The only difference is that during a carnival, they are scattered all over town. Gilmour summed up the fussy situation in the city quite well. Most of the residents just left town and hoped Venice would still be there when they came back Monday. If anything had gone wrong, they'd blame us. Right before the concert was about to start, there was one last obstacle. The head of the Gondoliers Union, which is one of the largest tourist businesses in Venice, came to see Steve O'Rourke. He demanded $10,000 paid to the union before the concert. The band had now started to get annoyed by the ingratitude and refused to pay, especially given the fact that most of the gondoliers had rented out their boats for people to sit in during the concert. The head of Gondoliers Union then threatened to gather all the boats in front of the stage and blow their whistles throughout the concert. Wait, what? Whistles? Against a band playing for 200,000 people with at least 60 decibels of sound system? Let's just say the threat didn't have much hold. The concert started and the band played an amazing concert. The set list included several songs of their new album, but of course, as it was broadcasted all over the world, it didn't miss the classics such as Shine On You Crazy Diamond and Comfortably Numb. As it was broadcasted, the band had a strict time schedule throughout the gig, which they weren't used to. This was what Gilmour had to say about it. "I was nervous, playing live to 100 million people. It gets to you at times." Guy Pratt, the bass guitarist for the show, added, "I think it was just about the only time I've ever heard a trace of nerves in his voice, but even then, that was only between the songs." What is somewhat funny about all this is that after the show, the council went on to fire fireworks, which Gilmour stated was 10 times anything they had put up during the show. Despite all the fuss leading up to the actual show, the concert ended up being a major success both for the physical audience and the people watching worldwide. However, for their local community, it was somewhat more of a scandal. Although the physical damage was close to nothing on statues and other historical buildings, the city was for sure shaken. The streets were full of garbage and beer cans, and as the local authorities hadn't managed to foresee the number of people coming, they were in huge shortage of portable bathrooms. This led to, well, humans being humans. What followed was the newspapers criticizing the council who had let this happen, as well as people demonstrating, shouting, "Resign, resign, you've turned Venice into a toilet." This all led to Mayor Castelletti resigning, along with all of his crew, and that is despite the fact that he had been against the concert in the first place. In conclusion, a pessimist would maybe view this whole concert as a scandalous event that brought down the city's government and should never have taken place in a historical city like Venice in the first place, while others, more optimistic souls, might view this as a beautiful moment in the history of music, an event that created everlasting memories for over 200,000 Italians. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this iconic story of Pink Floyd and that you don't feel like this video wasted your time. If not, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep rockin'.